Dr. Judy here. Hello, hello. Dr. Judy here. Dr. Judy WTF with the Freud. And thank you so much for tuning in. This is a call-in show, everyone. And that call-in number is 323-524-2599. Do not be shy. Pick up the phone and get on the couch, and we can talk about anything you want related to the topic of male children abandoned by mother and dread of relationships. So it just sounds kind of logical, doesn't it? If you've been abandoned by your mother, then there's no way it's not going to affect you. So if you've been abandoned by your mother and then you want to get into a relationship, there's got to be a dread somewhere involved there, unless you've really done a lot of work and have gone through therapy or have been in a great relationship where you've done a lot of healing. But there's no way a mother who abandons her son will not have a profound impact on her son. So let's get into it. And as many of you know, I created a mind map to track these childhood wounds. And let's put it up there. Thank you so much. And today we're going to be talking about the wound of abandonment, specifically a mother abandoning her male child, whether he be a baby, child, teenager, or any age, really. A mother abandoning her own son. Okay, so as you can see, the light in the background is representative of the healthy parts of us, the whole and complete self. So it's what we ideally would be and should be if things go right in our life, including a mother and an infant connection that profoundly creates a system of safety, a system of nourishment, a system of unconditional love. When that is not there, unfortunately, it shatters the psyche, and you can see those black dots all over the light, or clouds, or interferences, scars, whatever you want to call them, blocking the child from developing in a way that's going to help self-actualize this individual. So as Dr. Maslow talks about self-actualization, it's hard to do that when your own mother is not in your corner. So what happens as a result of this is that obviously the child is going to have reactions to these wounds. So first is the wounding, whether it be physical neglect or emotional neglect, or I'm talking about, sometimes we think of abandonment as a mother leaving the picture totally, and that's kind of what I meant by the topic. But there's another level of abandonment, whether it be physically or emotionally. You're just not going to be the same. So especially if you've made a connection to her. So especially if you've done the bonding the first year, 2 or 3 of life. Dr. John Bowlby calls this attachment to the primary caregiver. If the male in the family has had this deep bond with mom, and then suddenly mother leaves, and it could be for any reason, really. It could be because she died, it could be because she's been hospitalized, could be because she left the family, it could be for any number of reasons. When we're in a pre-verbal state, we really need a mother or a primary caregiver to soothe us, to center us, to give us unconditional love and nurturing and make us feel safe. Okay, so if we don't have that, we're in big psychological trouble. And then when we get to panel number 3, which is all those horrible negative core beliefs that we encode. See the DNA strand? That is my metaphor for encoding. So we're always encoding. We're encoding messages. So even though mom may not say, I don't want to be here, I'm out of here, she is communicating deep messages of rejection. So this encoding inside the psyche of the male child could be messages like, I'm not worth it, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not lovable, or I will never be safe with anybody because the world is a dangerous place. So you see how parents set the blueprint for the child? Now, if there is a father that is present, then father can, of course, mitigate the damages, but not always enough to undo the profound damages of the absent mother. So even though daddy might be great, even though grandma and grandpa might be great, the clear message of a mother abandoning her son is very, very profound. And you can see how this will lead to chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. And like many shows, many of them are inspired by my conversations with my patients. And this one certainly was. And in general, to, of course, preserve privacy, in general, what occurred was a very strong relationship attachment, and then sometime in, a backpedaling occurred, and nothing bad happened in the relationship, but something bad happened in the relationship from a mind map point of view, and I'm going to explain what that bad thing was that happened in the relationship. So the bad thing that happened is that as we fall in love, as we deepen our connection to another human being, as this male, now adult person deepens his feelings toward a woman, then a lot of good things happen. Like, wow, I'm feeling all these amazing feelings, and wow, I have some level of security, and wow, this person is beautiful and wonderful, and so on. But then on the other side of the coin is like, wow, this is dangerous. Because, I do talk about in my book and in my videos and many times on my show that parents set the bar. So if mommy dearest left and she's that bar, then why wouldn't it be so, at least in an unconscious registered sense, that everybody that I, meaning the male child or now adult, gets close to is going to leave? So can you see that going deeper and deeper into the relationship is going to bring up anxiety, is going to bring up fear, is going to specifically bring up fear of attachment and fear of attaching because the mother who sets the bar and the blueprint abandoned. So why shouldn't this other person? Because after all, if mother's supposed to be the one that loves us most, then this is not going to work out, because the closer I get to another human being, I'm in trouble, because now my feelings are in, now I'm vulnerable, and now I'm signing up for a possible abandonment. No, thank you very much. And then therefore the backpedaling. So if this has happened to you, please do call in. I would love to hear from you. And let's get into the subject, because there is no way we are left unscarred when something as profound as a parent leaving you infects our life. There's just no way that we could just walk away and think that everything is going to be okay. So I want to talk a little bit more about attachment theory, how important it is for that bond to form, how important it is for mother and infant to connect through eye contact, through skin contact, through mirroring, through attunement. These things feel wonderful, and they feel very containing. And if a baby hasn't had that, then they're in for an even rougher ride. Now, if they've had that and then mother detaches or leaves for whatever reason, it's very sad, because that disconnect is felt just so profoundly. It's like having something so deep and connected and then pulling the cord on it. And that is a real heart wrencher. So, are there any people out there who have been in a relationship with someone whose mother has left them, and then they get into the relationship and things feel good and everything seems good and nothing bad is happening, but the person starts to backpedal? Please call in. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your story. I want to hear how the storyline unfolded and what happened. Did the person receive any help? Did they just extricate themselves from the situation? So let's talk a little bit about panels number 4, 5, 6: chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. So even though the relationship itself may not be chaotic, the security of the relationship itself could be a precursor for fear that the security of the relationship will not be permanent. So even though the person is feeling a sense of security logically, that sense of security in their mind is fleeting. Again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Parents set the bar. So if mom left, what are we walking into? We're walking into a trap of nice, 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 and then let's pull the rug out from under your feet and you collapse into chaos. So to be proactive, what the person who's experienced this deep level of abandonment will do is they will sabotage the relationship. They will start to get out of the relationship. They'll take control of the relationship by breaking it off before they can experience a second trauma, because in their mind, the second trauma is coming. And why is it coming? Because if we point to panel number 3, which is negative core beliefs, they're already loaded with horrible core beliefs that they're not worthy, they're not good enough, they're not lovable, maybe they shouldn't have even been born, maybe they're burdens. So can you see how all these dots connect? And so the security of the relationship is just kind of like a wish, but not really a wish that they totally believe in, because these interferences, these negative core beliefs already set the person up to think very lowly about themselves. Their self-esteem is poor. And so any kind of sign, it might not even be a huge sign, but any sign can be read as an indicator of abandonment. It could be that their partner is living in a different place and not speaking to them for maybe too many days or not enough. So any sort of disconnect may be perceived as a threat. And so can you see how people could easily fall into chaos? And so that beautiful fantasy of connectedness and stability, since they've never had it, is not something that is either familiar to them or familial to them. So they just don't know what to do with this. And so since they don't know what to do with it, they might as well just topple it over. So that's why chaos looks like it does in my mind map, with people flying into the ozone and the DNA strands unraveling and everything's just kind of upside down. And then they create in the other partner a sense of, you know, what happened? A confusion. I don't understand. I thought things were going well. I thought we had an agreement that this is long term. I thought we were going somewhere with this. And then the person says, yeah, we were, but now I have to reconsider this. And then the other person might be saying, why are we reconsidering something that's going so well? And I don't think that the person who's been abandoned can truly answer that, because, see, all of this is very, very unconscious. So it's not like they can actually say, you know, sweetheart, I just don't trust relationships. My mother's never been there for me. And even though you're great, I'm scared. I'm I'm scared to get closer to you because I think the same thing will happen to me again, and I'm not going to be able to withstand another abandonment like this. So I just can't go in any further. So now we're in the defense zone. So if you look at panel number 5, which represents the defense mechanisms, you could see that the person is now pulling away and they're going into their, what I call their ism, isolation in ism. They're pulling away. They're not being a we, they're being more and more of a me. Me, isolate me, pull out of this. I want to be alone. I need time. I need space. I. So there's no more, let's work on this. We could do this. We could overcome it. The we turns into, that's interesting. I just thought of that. We, W-E. And if you turn the W upside down, it becomes, right? A me. So wait, I'm trying to do this with my fingers. Like a we, W-E, turns into me. So that's what I mean by system gone wrong. Everything reverses. Okay, so they don't know how to be a we because the first solid we is that relationship with your primary caregiver. That's the real big we. And if we don't get that right, then we can't expect to get relationships right. So these defenses start to build up. The fantasy becomes true, and then the other person gets angry, and then the man can then go back to the woman and say, see, I told you so. I told you you weren't going to be there for me. I told you you were going to abandon me. And that's what I call self-fulfilling prophecy. So they set it up that way, and then it comes true, and then they can point back at the situation and say, see, I told you so, which will justify why they should have left in the first place. So I'm hoping that you're now tracking the system gone wrong, because it takes a couple of minutes here to see how everything connects from the wound of abandonment to the reaction and the fear and the amygdala that is in pain and starts reacting and maybe shutting down, and then these horrible core beliefs that take place, and then the attempt to go back into the relationship, which is a very dangerous attempt because the unconscious fear, of course, is that they will again be abandoned. And once abandoned is horrid. Twice abandoned, I don't know if the person would be able to sustain such injury. So again, better be left, or better leave than be left. So I'd love to hear from you. Please do call in. I want to hear your story. Are there any people in the chat room with questions? And, I'd much prefer a phone call to the show, because then we can actually talk about it and we can dissect what the Freud is going on, because you on the other end are probably scratching your head thinking, what the Freud is going on here? I thought everything was good. I thought we were solid. And I want to make that distinction between logic. So logically, you are correct. Everything is solid. Everything is good. Everything lined up, and probably you got along and had many reasons to be together. Maybe you had similar philosophies and life goals and educational goals, or maybe you had some, a lot of great experiences together that you could look back upon and say, wow, how can anybody in their right mind not want more of this? Well, it's called fear. And if you look at fear, it's an acronym, as I've heard, for false evidence appearing real. Fear, false evidence appearing real. So the false evidence is that the new partner is going to leave them just like mom left them. And there's false evidence for that. But again, since they were left by their own mom. It seems unimaginable and unthinkable. The worst already happened. So, how could the worst of the worst not happen again with a new partner? How could mom dare to leave me and me think that a person that's not my mom and is not my family won't leave me? So, can you hear how this fear starts appearing more and more real? And the logic goes, and the psycho logic, which makes us psycho, is profoundly overshadowed by the logic of the solidity of the relationship. And on the receiving end, it doesn't feel very good at all to have someone who you've now attached to and have made plans around and futurized and introduced to your family, just up and go. So, what do you say to a person like that, right? I've been asked, like, what do you tell a person like that? Well, you could point to the issues. I mean, after all, you have nothing to lose, and say, look, this doesn't make any sense to me. My sense is that there's something more going on with you. Before we cut the cord here, I'd like you to explore with a therapist, hopefully me or one of my team members, because we're versed in the mind map and childhood wounds. I want you to explore your childhood wounds, and I want you to explore it from the point of view of what you're projecting into the relationship. Because this is why relationships break down into chaos defenses and ultimately crash and burn, is because childhood wounds run interference. Okay, I'll say it again. Childhood wounds run interference in relationships. And if we haven't closed the psychological files and healed our childhood wounds, they're going to appear within relationships, and not necessarily initially, because, honeymoon phase and let's have fun, we're enjoying it, it's not that serious yet. But the minute it starts getting serious and time has gone by and now people are needing to make that commitment and go forward, that's where it kicks in. That's where the real fear kicks in. So who wants to sign up for abandonment yet again? I think you know the answer to that. And that's what's going on psychologically. Now, the person on the receiving end of this, of course, could say, okay, just what I said, go work out your issues, and hopefully you'll figure them out, and we can let this interference dissolve through your work in therapy. Or the person could just take a really strong stance, and I don't blame you if you do, and just say, look, I love you, but I love myself more. And I'm going to continue to love myself more, or a lot more, at least a little more than I love you, because there's no point in loving somebody that is not committed to you, because now you're going to be in danger. And now you should fear abandonment, because you've been abandoned for, maybe not the right reasons. But this is not a solid person that you want to tie your emotions up with, because these issues are just going to pop out like, Jack in the Box. Pop goes the weasel. And if they're activated, they might get scared and start running. So you don't want a person who has what John Bowlby calls anxious attachment or avoidant attachment, or any attachment style that isn't secure attachment. So are there any questions in the chat room or any comments that I could speak to?
Well, there actually people are talking, and I do want to tell you an example of something from my own personal life, if that's okay, Dr. Judy.
Thank you so much.
So, well, first, Cinderella in the YouTube chat room said, "My mother became my friend on her deathbed. I chose to forgive her for for my peace of mind," which, I'm sure a lot of people have done that on deathbeds.
Okay.
But my mother, which this could be a generational thing too. because I don't see the court system nowadays allowing this. But when my mother was born in 1939, so when my mother was a year old, her mother left her, and she never knew her mother from that day forward. She looked for her for years, but growing up, my grandfather would tell my mom, "Oh, she didn't want you. She just left you." All these things, and so of course my mom had a lot of illnesses and mental health issues, and getting in bad relationships, and so, but years later, when she found a sister she never knew she had,
Mm-hmm.
she said, "No, your grandfather was the one that was abusive. Well, he was abusive to my mom anyway, but was abusive, and then that's why your mother left, and she tried to get you back, but he wouldn't let her." So, but because of the abandonment and then reinforcement of my grandfather saying that her mother abandoned, she had a lot of issues, until the day she passed away. But I'm sure it's more of a generational thing, because that probably wouldn't happen now. But what is your thoughts of abandonment maybe being caused by another parent, which my grandfather was a narcissist for sure.
I mean, what an evil thing to do, to create a situation where your mother had to leave because she wasn't safe, right? And then turn around and blame your mother and infect
Yes.
you, or, anybody in your position, with the message that you weren't wanted. I
Yes.
mean, pure evil, right? And that's what people do when they're that sick. They will justify and gaslight and invent and so on and spin the story. Um, but, even though your mother might have, or you, this is you.
No, this is my mother and then her mother, so my grandmother. Yeah.
So even though your mother might have gained the truth, right, which is that your grandfather chased her mother away,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Right.
Too late. She still incorporated these horrible messages. I'm not lovable. I'm not wanted. I shouldn't have
Right.
been born. And even though the correction might have happened and hoped it helped her on some level, she still walked around for years feeling
63 years
low
before.
self-esteem.
Yeah. She was
Is that
63.
accurate?
She was 63 when her sister came into the picture. She didn't even know she had a sister, but so it was 63 years, and then she died when she was 79. So, and even then the damage was already done mentally and also physically, cuz the mental part affected her physically. So,
And that's what happens, that's so accurate. The mind and the body are so connected. When we're not doing well emotionally, it's going to sit in our bones, in our muscles, in our
mhm.
head, in our jaws, in our stomach. And, people go into a state of dis-ease, which then turns into disease,
Right.
autoimmune disease, and cancer, and you name it. And then we defend with drug, sex, rock and roll, and drink too much, smoke too much, eat too much, um, not exercise, and so on. And then that makes matters even worse. So you can see how the chaos ramps up from the defenses, kind of working backward now from chaos to um, the breakdowns. Okay, but
Mhm.
what I meant by that is that the the defenses of smoking, overeating, and unhealthy lifestyle will break the person down even further until there's a big breakdown, whether it be a health breakdown or family breakdown or a
Mhm.
combination. But these messages are really, really hard to deprogram because um, that's your person, your mother, your father, your
Right.
primary. This is your primary person, and however that person messages you, whether it's verbally or non-verbally by leaving, this is the impression he or she gives you about yourself. And these are horrible core beliefs that form around this message. You're not important. You're disposable. You shouldn't have even been born.
Hmm.
I never wanted you in the first place.
Right.
Who would want you? I'm glad to be rid of you. You don't matter to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you overcome stuff like that? And that's why I created the mind map. And that's why it's so important to go back into the mind map and release these psychological poisons that have now set into the psyche and need to be identified and sourced, okay, back to mom and back to dad, so that they don't infect you and implode within you or explode on other people around you and then create relationship chaos and eventually breakdowns. So, as you know, your mother, this had a profound effect, I'm sure, on her self esteem. Is
Oh,
that
yeah. It was also reinforced. We have a call, by the way. I don't want to lose that call, so caller, don't hang up. But it was reinforced by her grandmother and her aunt, my grandfather's mother and sister. They reinforced, about saying this, your mother didn't want you. But according to the diary and her sister, that she tried to get my mother. She couldn't find her, and this is in the 40s, so there wasn't
yeah,
a lot she could do.
it
But
was too late because all of that
yeah,
already
yeah,
formulated in her mind. Thank you for sharing that,
of
Tony.
course.
And if we still have the call,
Yep, we
please
do, and she's
jump on. Yeah, thanks for calling in. Hi,
Hi, how are you, Dr. Judy?
I'm good. What name would you like me to call you by?
Rachel. Let's go with that.
Rachel?
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, Rachel. Nice to meet you. And so, what is going on in your life related to these kinds of profound abandonments, parental abandonments?
So I'm going through a breakup very acutely right now. Basically, my partner, who I was with for maybe a year and a half,
Mm-hmm.
decided to push me into a breakup because I don't know if things got too serious or what, but it was a little bit shocking. And he's done this before.
Mm-hmm.
I met him through a friend of mine who he dated 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, he dated her for 2 years and then suddenly said that he didn't love her anymore all of a sudden.
Oh, so
And
about a
I guess
2 year
she,
timeline, huh? 2 year timeline.
yeah. And then I guess in the past as well, he got burned very badly before, is like what I learned from my friend, is what she said. And also his mother, when he was around like 18 or 19 years old, kicked him out all of a sudden as well. So he was abandoned by her. So he has all these issues. It's been kind of hard because I haven't talked to him in a week or so, or over a week now.
Wait, so you've been apart for
So
over a week now?
yeah, yeah.
So I'm so sorry to hear. And you knew about these issues of his being abandoned by his mother, yes?
Yeah, I did know about these issues, but I thought things were going pretty well. I mean, I did notice he did have some narcissistic traits, so those were kind of a little bit, red flags. But I don't know. For the most part, it seemed to be all right and working. So it was just kind of a very difficult and confusing breakup. We had 2 months where he was rejecting me before he finally broke up with me.
And was that at the cusp of you guys getting closer? In other words, everything that I've been talking about tonight, have you experienced that the closer you came, it was like, when you walk down the aisle at a wedding, it's like, it's like, what's that song? The wedding song, dun 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 dun, dun. It's a happy song, but in this case, it sounds more like dun 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 dun. So was it like the closer you got to that wedding date or commitment date? Did you feel the dread coming on? Is that when he started making trouble and distancing?
Probably, I'm not sure. I mean, I think something like that. I mean, he broke up with his ex girlfriend, the one right just before me, because she wanted kids right away, and it was kind of a similar story here too. So, I mean, he's just got a cycle that keeps going, repeating, and it's just tough because this is, I suggested therapy to
Mm-hmm.
this guy, and he's allergic to it almost. So there's nothing really I can do in the situation.
Mm-hmm. Well, was there a true deal breaker there? I'm not a fan of people pairing up with deal breakers, and I am a fan of people asking a lot of questions before they get involved. You want to know things like, well, do you want children? Or I don't. Well, then I guess we're not a match. Or what you got to ask the right questions, because if you don't ask
Right.
the right,
I did. And that's what was frustrating because he was on board before and then suddenly it seemed like he changed his mind.
okay. So did he change his mind conveniently to get out of things because they were just getting too icky, sticky, and committed from his point of view?
Probably. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, exactly. His parents told me they had commitment issues and that he gives up when things are hard. Like he gives up easily and it happens with like almost everything. So that's a difficult person to deal with a little bit.
So how are you holding it in your mind? I'm sure it's been a long relationship. You must miss him, it's really tough when you start wrapping your head and futurizing a relationship, and then all the dreams get killed off. You fantasize and the house we're going to live in, and the kids' names are going to be, and the people we're going to associate with, and the fun vacation. So it's almost like we create all of this, and then when the person blows away, it's like unhook that, unhook that, unhook that, unhook that. So where are you at with all of this?
Well, I was heartbroken 2 months ago because we definitely had plans. We even had, at one point, we had plans to move in together, and we even have a piece of furniture we bought together to
Mm-hmm.
put in the new place that we're thinking about, using because it was too big for his place. And it was just, there was all these plans, and, we were thinking about getting together. And now all of a sudden, when there was like a certain turning point, he just suddenly saying like, "Oh, I don't want to move in with you. We need like, so much space, so much space. He needs a space, all this sort of thing."
Yeah.
It's just really tough to deal with. I don't know. I mean, again, I was heartbroken 2 months ago when it happened, but we tried staying together for 2 months to work on our problems, but he just basically refused to the entire time. I was doing everything to fix it, and he was doing nothing except sabotage it.
So are you still talking to him?
No, I haven't spoken to him over a week. He basically broke up with me and ran away. He didn't even give me the. He told me he would call me the next day or talk to me the next day, and he didn't.
You didn't.
And then he took our pictures off social media a few days off later. So it was tough to deal with and see. But I mean, again, I can't change the situation, so it's just been a little strange.
I mean, I know it's so fresh, but have you thought about the fact that you dodged a bullet, that you're in a better place to look for somebody who is healthier and can be with
I
you?
am, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of a shame, right? That's the whole like sadness of it.
Right, and it's a shame for him as well, because what's he gonna do? Just get involved and do it again and again? Because that's what the Freud is we don't learn, we keep cycling through, and until he reaches deep down there into his childhood wounds and deals with his wounded child abandonment by his mother, and the reactions and core beliefs that he bought into from this experience, he's only going to repeat this in the next relationship. He's pretty much
Yeah.
guaranteed to repeat this in the next relationship.
And I
So,
see this as well. And it's just been difficult. But the past 2 months that we were together when he was sabotaging the relationship, he was quite mean to me. So I think I'm getting, I was able to get over it a little faster, I guess, now. But again, I was heartbroken 2 months ago, and I just was really confused as to what happened. It was kind of a good explanation, but it's just very strange.
you're reminding me to do a show, which I will after all the holidays, on ghosting, because I think it's just like a real chicken thing to do to somebody, just to disappear. Yeah, yeah, I'll call you. Yeah, we'll be in touch, or yeah, we do have something going, and then the plan is not to have it going. I just think that these things leave the other person so damaged. So I'm gonna do a show on ghosting and the effects of ghosting on the other person. I've definitely been ghosted by friends. I've been ghosted by friends, and it's not a great feeling. I'd rather that the friend just confront and say, this wasn't working for me, or you hurt my feelings, or, whatever it is. People like closure. I talk about this in my book. And if you haven't grabbed a copy of my book, you can buy it off of Amazon.com. You can get the hard copy. You can get a free PDF. It's called Be the Cause, and it connects the dots to everything that we're talking about. And it's my system of mind map to take you from wounds of childhood through them and shift out of them. Um, but it's just so important to do the work. And what about you, Rachel? Have you done work on yourself so that you make sure that
Yes,
yes?
yes, I have. Yes, I've been through therapy and I'm still going. So like I'm kind of, navigating this situation through there. But I just called in because it's just, a difficult situation that, I'm going through right now, and it just kind of resonated.
Yeah, I'm really, really sorry you're going through it. And on the other side of the coin, I'm happy that this got exposed for you before you tied the knot, before you had children, before you have, some people have to extricate themselves from these long-term relationships and then split property and pay divorce attorneys or mediators and run around and split child custody and all kinds of things. So on that end of it, I'm happy for you that this didn't end up in disaster zone, because it could have.
Right. But now
So
I'm just trying to think of how will I avoid this again in the future, because it's so confusing to meet someone who's, you know, seems fine for the most part, maybe give some red flags, maybe has some issues or something, but for the most part it's workable, and then, this comes up.
okay, so I think, for one, if someone has had a mother or father that's abandoned them, know up front they're going to have abandonment issues. If they haven't worked through them, they might visit their issues upon you. It's not a common dating question, but I think you can understand from people pretty early on. So, what was your mother like? What was your father like? Well, my mom left me when I was two, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so have a little red flag there in your head, because you want to know if they're commitment phobic, if like this 2 year span, you can almost justify, the person that's going into the relationship can just say, well, I'm only here to see how it's going to be. So they're not really serious about going all in. They're just kind of like really wasting your time so that they could be babysat for a while and enjoy the ride, but they're not going to close the deal. So I think it's fair to ask people and get a sense of their childhood wounds. It's important.
Yeah, I would agree.
So maybe
Yeah.
that would be different for you. Okay, maybe you can learn to ask more questions next time. And just because somebody's been wounded doesn't mean you have to run, but at least find out if they've had therapy and if they've worked things through, and what did they learn, and where they stand with commitment, and how commitment
Yeah,
uh, feels to them.
I guess so. I mean, I remember in the very beginning of our relationship, his mom actually told me the story of her abandoning him and like how bad she felt about it. And I was like, a very strange thing to tell me at the very when I in my first meeting with her.
I see.
So sorry.
Uh,
Hello.
Yeah. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm sorry. I thought I
Okay.
got cut off. But yeah, no, it was just a very strange thing to say in the very beginning. And I kind of knew about this, but I just didn't know how to handle it because, I mean, either somebody's willing to work on their issues or they're not, right?
Yeah, take these things seriously. No matter how you find out about it, these are profound disconnects and they affect the psyche in a profound way. And unless that person's taken some really, really strong steps on healing, they may not be commitment relationship material. And what about your end of it? Did you have a solid background? Did you have parents that were there for you?
No, I didn't. I had, two, well, I had the, narcissistic parents. One more narcissistic, one might be a bit more borderline, but it was that double dungeon, Dr. Judy. It was terrible. But,
You know my
I'm
terms, don't
working.
you? Did you read my book? Is that why you know the terms, or you just listen to me on YouTube?
I work with one of your therapists. It's okay.
Okay,
I kind of
got
I've
it.
been speaking. So yeah, it's been like I've been going through working on myself as well. So
Okay,
it's
good.
been kind of a journey.
Okay, but right. So you don't want to be doing the what the Freud and replicating upon yourself the abandonments, because if you had a narcissistic parent, that's a real form of abandonment because they put their own needs before yours. Okay?
Hmm.
So this I know it sounds like a joke, Dr. Judy, WTF, what the Freud, but it's not a joke because it's funny in that it's a light, fun title, but it's true. People repeat old childhood wounds ad nauseum. And if you find that you're just on this treadmill or dreadmill, as I like to call it, then unpack it, understand it, source it, heal from it, and maybe take a relationship break until you've got some good grip on what the Freud is going on with you. And by the way, everybody should know that my video is out, Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. There it is. If you go to my website, psychologicalhealingcenter.com, I have downloaded the entire introduction to this video so you could check it out and see if it's for you. And I've put my heart and soul into this one, everything that I know about healing from narcissistic abuse. If you don't want to pay for one-on-one therapy, it's a lot less expensive than one-on-one. It is kind of one-on-one therapy with me via a video, and you get the book and the journal and the video, and you go through it, and you're going to learn a lot about narcissism and a lot about healing from narcissistic abuse and a lot about how narcissism is formed. So there's another way to unpack these injuries is go to my website, psychologicalhealingcenter.com, and then you will see Dr. Judy's new video and learn more. You can click it and then you can get more information. You can always call me about it and I can tell you more about it. But please, everyone listening, do not assume that you can overlook these deep childhood injuries. They will visit you, and not only you, but multi-generationally. If you don't cut cut it now, then it travels to your children and your grandchildren, and this just like a virus, it just keeps going. Okay, so I hope that you're learning. I'm glad that you dodged a bullet, no matter how painful. This is a lot less painful than if you got deeper involved and then he freaked on you and left you after you got
No, and like from what like I was discussing with our person, like she says that I've like grown in the relationship and I might have outgrown him too a little bit, so I think I will choose better in the future. It's just that I was with this person for a long time and it's just
I hear
again
you. Right. What is that? What is that psychological principle? I think it has to do with cognitive dissonance, that if you keep doing something for a long time, you want to justify why you should continue to do it. So, so, oh, I've been with him for a long time, and so therefore I should be with him, and, it'll work out. Well, not necessarily. If it's not foundationally correct, time isn't going to heal it, but psychological deep inner work can address it. Okay.
Right.
So I really appreciate
Yeah.
you calling in. Take care of yourself and everybody out there. Do the work, choose wisely, and also know this, because I'm experiencing this in my life, that the more I heal and the wiser I get and the more insight I get about myself and people, it kind of gets lonely out there because there aren't that many people to be growth partners with. So if you are in a relationship and you do get in therapy, I really suggest that both of you get into therapy together so you don't outgrow each other, because that's a, common thing, that the husband or the wife might come see me, and then that's the last thing that I want to have happen, is for people to go this way. I'd rather have them both work on themselves and come together this way, which sometimes does happen in couples therapy. Um, but mostly, if you're in a relationship, you tell your partner, look, I'm growing and I want us to grow together. I do not want this growth of mine to be splintering us. So please join me in the growth. Okay. All right. So take care of yourself. Everyone, choose wisely, do the work, and check out the video, Healing from Narcissistic Abuse, on my website, psychologicalhealingcenter.com. Okay. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.